Hello, this is Ben with Sagenverse, here to take you through your first gallery build. Alright, so after you've created your account and logged in, you should be seeing this dashboard screen, which is where we keep our Sagan project organized. On the left-hand side, there is a couple of tabs, one that tracks your Sagan projects or rooms, and the other one is the storage folders and drives that get created every time you make a new room. So currently I don't have any rooms, so therefore I don't have any drives yet. So why don't we go ahead and fix that by making our first gallery. You can see here that there is two ways to do that. When there are no rooms available, there is a big button here that prompts us to go ahead and start creating a Sagan. Otherwise, we can also create a new Sagan by using this Create New Sagan button here on the top right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and press that button, and we're going to see our Create Sagan wizard, which is a series of steps that will walk you through choosing a category, choosing a layout, and giving it a name. So here we can see we've got a little carousel of options that let you choose from some pre-configured rooms that will include some furniture, some frames, and some layouts that will help kickstart your project. We have them categorized like art galleries, some educational spaces, libraries, productivity, and then for the true do-it-yourselfers, we have just empty, unfinished rooms, and we have a couple of simply just open spaces where you're free to build in 3D as you need. So for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and select an art gallery here, and I'm going to start with this 19th century classic space with some nice wood paneling and a couple of different galleries for us to put some materials in. I'm going to go ahead and select that layout. You can just simply click on any one of the swatches to choose your layout, and then it'll give you a quick little video preview of what the space looks like. When you are satisfied with your selection, down here in the bottom right hand corner, which I think my video is blocking right now, but there is a next button that you will press, and it will take you to the name creation screen. We'll give it a name. We'll just call it Art Gallery, and you can give it a description. And these will be shown when this is shared. So if you want to have a description of the collection or some other type of statement, you can use the description for that. And both of these can be edited at any given time from the dashboard screen. But for now, we'll just go ahead and call it Art Gallery. When I've got a name, again, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a Create button that I'm pressing, and it will take us to the 3D editor. Okay, now that we've arrived in the 3D editor, let me give you a quick rundown on how to get around. As you can see, as I move my cursor across the floor, I am showing a white circle. And this white circle is a preview of where I'll go when I click on the ground with my left button on my mouse. So if I click around, you can see that I am walking through the space. To turn my head and go in a different direction, I'm going to use the same left click, and I'm going to go ahead and click the wall just by dragging. I can also drag the floor. It doesn't really matter where you drag. And you can drag left to look left, drag right to look right, drag up to look up, and drag down to look down. And between these two controls, click to walk and drag to look, you can easily get around the space. In addition to the click to walk, if you are somebody who plays PC games or first-person shooter type games, you can use your W, A, S, and D keys to get the same forward, backward, and sidestep locomotion. Your arrow keys will also do the same thing. Okay, so that covers the basics of walking around and navigating a space. Now let's take a look at our left-hand menu here, where there's a series of tools and things that we can do to build out our 3D gallery. On the top here is the Sagenverse logo. Clicking this will return us to the main dashboard view and save our project. Below that is our Files tab, where we'll be able to import our images, links, documents, content in general that we'll be able to use to customize the space. Below that is our library of 3D furniture. This includes frames, desks, tables, chairs, a whole menagerie of cool things you can add to your space. All the things that you see present in the room here have come from the same 3D library. Below that are some notes and 3D text tools. We'll cover those in just a little bit, and you can use these to add labels, leave post-it notes, and leave little documents as a way to work or as a way to label things for your guests who will be coming to visit your space. And we won't go too far into some of these other tools unless we get to our next, or when we get to our next video, which will be focused on more advanced interaction techniques and building out things like tours and missions, slideshows and quizzes and things like that. But for now, we're going to stick to making a very simple gallery that will have some paintings, a couple of sculptures, some placards, and we'll go ahead and get that prepared for sharing. So that is the menu side here. And let's go ahead and get our files prepared. As we can see, we've got a couple of frames already put into our arrangement, and they are looking for files. You'll see anything that can accept a file will have this little icon on it that says Add Files here. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Files tab. Before I get going too far, I want to just call out a couple of the tools in the Files tab and how they work. Right now, we don't have anything uploaded for this project, but every time we do upload a file, it is associated with the project and is organized in that project. So it creates a directory for the project so that you can keep all your files and your projects organized in that regard. Whenever you upload something, it gets put right into the root level of the project. So if I was to click this button here and bring in this painting, it will sit at the root level of our project. And then while it is being processed, you'll see a little preview icon here letting us know that the services in the cloud are taking care of the preview. And after a few moments, it will return with a thumbnail, and it will be easily identifiable in your list of files. As you start to add more, you can add a multitude of files to your upload. Let that go ahead and process. As you start to fill up your main directory, you may wish to employ some folders. That's what this button here is for. We'll go ahead and call our new folder Paintings. And we can go ahead and drag and drop if you wish, or you can use Shift click to do a multiple selection here, and then right click on the files to call up the right click menu. That will give you the option to go ahead and move those items to a folder of your choice. And since we only have the one folder Paintings, I'll go ahead and move those all to Paintings. Now I can open up Paintings by double clicking. And if I ever need to get back to the main of my art gallery project, I can use the breadcrumbs here at the top to get back to art gallery and get back to my root level. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Paintings again. And let's start bringing some of these images into our frames. So let's start with this frame here. I'll go ahead and select this painting, drag it with my left mouse, drag, and you can see I can move it around my palette. And as soon as it crosses over to the 3D space, it makes a three-dimensional card of this image, and it lets me start placing it around the scene. Now, what's really cool is this will hug any surface in the room, including the ceilings and even the floor. So you can get really creative with where you put your images. So some people will use this for adding decorations or signs or even decals, like things on the floor. But commonly, you'd probably want to put this into something like a frame or a customized 3D object. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in our frame. And once it's in the frame, you can see it's filled the frame as best it can with the image that I've selected. And we can continue to do that very quickly. So if I grab all of these images, drag them into the space, we now have several paintings put into our frames. Now, what you might have noticed already is it will do its best job to fit the painting into the frame, but not every image is going to be portrait like these frames are arranged. Some frames will need to be landscape. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and introduce to you the transform menu, which I'm going to go ahead and close the Files tab, and select this frame on the wall by using left click. Now that I've selected an object like this in the room, there's a couple things I can do. I can simply click and drag and move it around. So you can use this for arrangement and changing where you want the frame to go. It will automatically attempt to snap itself to different areas. And as you can see, once I took it off the wall, it reverted back to a landscape orientation. But if you want to keep it in portrait, you can use this transform menu here and these quick rotate buttons to set up the orientation of your choice. So you can also use a slider here, and the slider will let you change the orientation of the frame to your needs. You can also direct select this and type in a value and press enter. So because this is a landscape painting, I'm going to go ahead and set it to landscape, and I'm going to click the File tab, which gives us access to the file that is currently inside the frame. And that's what these accordion menus are here to do. So if I open up the file, you can see it's the file name here, which maybe isn't the most readable right now, but it will be the file name that's in the frame currently. You can use these controls here, where it says zoom, vertical offset, horizontal offset. You can start arranging the image within the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this counterclockwise so we can fit the landscape painting inside the landscape frame, so we can see the entire layout of the painting now. So that's a quick way to set up the differences between portrait and landscape views inside of a frame. A couple more things that we can talk about is all items in frames need to be inspectable. If you want somebody to open up the image and view it so they can view it up close, you would go back to this File tab, and then you'll see a series of options here at the bottom. Everything from high resolution, which will give you a much larger resolution and a better quality version of the texture that we put in the space. We use a pretty good one by default, but if you have a painting that has significant detail or it's very large in the space, you may wish to use the high resolution toggle to get that to look a little less blurry. Self-luminous is designed for images that would be part of like an LCD screen or backlit. Since most paintings are not backlit, we'll go ahead and leave that off. If you want to make the image downloadable, as in when somebody comes and visits your gallery, you want them to be able to grab a copy of that image or file, you would toggle this downloadable switch, and then when they go into the inspect mode for their playback, they can optionally take a copy of this file. It's off by default because not everyone wants to be able to share everything that they put up. And then finally, the one we're talking about is interactable. Typically, you're going to want that on for anything you would want your guests to be able to go into the detailed view and be able to zoom and pan and look at the fine details of the image that you have. Since most of these images I brought in are fairly high quality, I'm going to want to have it go ahead and turn that interactable on. And if I want to do this for multiple things, I can hold down Shift and I can select all three of these frames, and you'll see that my transform menu here, my properties menu rather, has shown me all of the selected objects I have here. So you can see the file names here, but it also gives me this thing called bulk edit. And this is really handy, where you can toggle those settings as a group. So I would prefer all these are high resolution, and I want them all interactable. So now if we go into each one of these, we'll see that those toggle switches have been appropriately assigned. And this is just a handy way to shortcut that process. If you want to change any of the files that get put into a frame, you can go to the Files tab again, and you can see that there's a file picker here that if I don't want to have this pencil drawing because it's not necessarily a painting, it would be better for me to substitute this in for an actual painting. I can click the orange button here, and it will open up my file drive, and I can go back into my paintings collection here, and I can swap that out with this painting. And it will go ahead and swap that painting out for the one I selected. Okay, so that's a nice little section of paintings here. Why don't we bring in another type of file? I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder and call it 3D models. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some 3D models I've prepared ahead of time. Let's see. I would like this one, and this one, and this one. So Sagenverse works with GLB formats. More on those formats in our blog posts. GLB is available as a file format out of Blender. You can also get these from Sketchfab and plenty of online free 3D content foundries. A GLB is handy because it packs both the mesh information as well as the texture information into one file, so you don't have to set up that network, and it treats it as a self-contained object. So Sagenverse takes advantage of that, and this will let you bring in virtually any 3D object that you can't find in our free resource library, and you can bring in your own. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this sculpture called Hammerman. And I can see here that the Hammerman sculpture has been positioned on this riser. And if I want, I can start moving this around the room the same way I was moving frames. But you can see that it will snap itself automatically to these risers, either on the front of it or the top of it. And we can start thinking about positioning this sculpture. I'm going to go ahead and use the transform menu here to do some quick rotations. And let's do a little fine tune, maybe like a 45, like that. And we've got ourselves a sculpture on one of our risers. I'll go ahead and bring in one more. Let's bring in this Roman sculpture. So this is a very large version of this sculpture. We can use the scale here to bring that down in size, and then we can snap it to the pedestal. But that looks a little silly because that is much too big of a riser for that little head sculpture. So why don't we bring it over to this protrusion here, and we can position this so it looks nice on the wall. And then maybe what I'll do is we'll do something a little bit more interesting. So right now you can go ahead and just snap this thing to any surface. But if you would like, you can float any object you want using advanced transform. And that's what we're going to use this advanced mode toggle switch here on the bottom of our properties menu. I'll turn that on, and it's going to give us a series of drop-down menus here that will give us access to the full 3D positioning of this object in space. So if I want, I can start grabbing this object and using the translate Y, I can start floating it off the riser there. And as an interactive tool, you can press the T key and it will call up our 3D gizmo or tool. And we can use these glowing arrows to move the object in that direction. So here is the y-axis, the x-axis, and over here is the z-axis. And we can move this object in any one of those directions. So we'll go ahead and float this head a little bit like this. And then it's pretty good off the wall. So I'll just leave it there. So now we've got this floating head, and we can have that be part of our display. Okay. Now I've prepared a couple of placards for my gallery. I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder. I'm going to call it placards. And I'm going to open up the placards folder and press upload. And I think I've got these placards here. Let's see. Hammerman. And then the Roman sculpture. I've got those placards. And I think I'm going to need a sign holder for these placards. So I'm going to go into the furniture collection here, and I'm going to look up sign. And it looks like we've got a lot of 3D sign objects, some 3D letters and things of that nature. But I'm going to go ahead and use our filter here, and I'm going to call up our museum collection. We should have a couple of simple sign holders. If we don't, then we can use a frame. Yeah, so what I think I'll do is I'll use one of these 3x2 frames. And I'm going to drag that into the room, and we'll get it sized up here. I'm going to use the scale, and I'll go to simple scale. And I'll use the click little arrow here, and let's drag it. It's something that fits that placard area. You can decide to put it on the front, but I think maybe it would be a little bit easier to be read here. So I'm going to position this a little bit better using the quick rotate. And I'm going to bring that placard file into the frame and take a look. It looks like we need to size that a little bit. We're not cropping it. And I'm going to use the zoom feature here, which is the first one in the list. And I'm going to knock it down a little bit. I'm actually not quite happy with this white mat board. So I'm going to show you another tab in our properties menu here called Style. And this is where we can set up colors for each of the 3D objects. And we have our color picker here where we can do color selection. By default, it's this mat board, which I prefer to do a little bit of a darker finish on. Something like that. And then something to make the frame pop off this brown. Select the frame, and I'll do a bit of a lighter finish. Maybe something like that. All right, maybe I'll echo that DIA blue. Maybe something like that. Doesn't look too bad. And now that I've spent all this time customizing this object, I would like to make another one just like this. And I'm going to go ahead and use another feature, which is duplicate. If I select this frame, I can use a couple different ways to duplicate this. One, I can press Shift and D, and it will give me an exact clone of this object. That's one way to do it. I can also select the object, hold down the Alt key, and drag another copy out. And it will duplicate it that way. And then finally we have, if you select the object, go to the Transform menu, and go to Advanced, you can press Duplicate there to get the same result. A couple different ways you can do duplication. I've made too many at this point, so now I need to delete some of these. And we can start with the delete button here that we saw right next to duplicate. So that's one way to do it. But the most convenient way, in my opinion, is to simply select the object and press backspace or delete on your keyboard. So now we've got a copy of our placard, and I need to bring this over to where our other sculpture is. So I can go ahead and just simply drag it in that direction. You can see that the interface is going to help me out by turning the camera as I get to the edges. So this is one way you can do it. And to help move things along, I'm going to say you can use your focus key, or F key, to bring yourself right to that object. It will square it up in your view, and we can get a nice view of the object while we're working on it. And so I can get it in context with the portrait of the head. I'm actually going to click again to get it in frame. And when we've clicked the frame feature, I'd like to point out that our camera mode changed. We also have a couple different camera modes here. If you click here on the bottom of our toolbox right beneath preview, you can change between a free cam, which is what we're in now, and the free cam works very similarly to your click to walk cam, but it only works with the WASD and arrow keys, and it is essentially the ability for you to fly freeform through the space, as if you are just a free floating camera. This also does not respect walls and collisions, so you can accidentally, find yourself out of bounds. So just be mindful of that. If you would like to get back to the click to walk camera, you can always click the camera button here in the bottom corner again, and it will switch you back to the first person camera mode. If you press the camera button again, you can also take advantage of our floor plan view or overhead view. And this is handy for doing larger layouts and getting an idea of how your gallery arrangement looks from an overhead view. And you can always toggle between these different cameras as you need. And you'll find yourself wanting to do that every once in a while to get a good look at how your exhibit takes shape. Okay, so let's get back to placing this placard on our riser. I'm going to go do a couple quick rotates, and we'll get that positioned here. And then just like what I showed you before, we're going to swap out this Hammerman placard with our Roman sculpture. So we can take advantage of the work we've already put into designing this placard, and we will set that back up for this sculpture. Okay. So now we've got our gallery set up. Imagine you, we could go fill every single one of these chambers with lots of other images and items. I want to show you one more thing before we get to publishing, and that is how to bring in websites. Now, I'm a big fan of the Detroit Institute of Arts. As you can see, I've grabbed several different paintings from their collection and started to amass, maybe this is my tribute to their collection. I'm going to go ahead and call up their YouTube channel. And let's go find one of their videos that talks about one of these objects. Let's go to their channel, and here we have Van Gogh in America, and we have this painting in our collection already. So there's a couple things we can do. We can grab this YouTube video link right here from the address bar, and we can add it to our clipboard by pressing Control-C or Command-C if we're on Mac, and adding that to the clipboard. And that'll get us a URL that we can quickly paste into the room by clicking into the room, and then I'm going to paste it right below the Van Gogh painting. And you can see it's pasted the URL, and it's starting to process that image, and it returns with a thumbnail. And that URL has also been added to our drive. You can see it here. It has the YouTube link, and we now have a link to that YouTube video in the space. Now let's practice what a guest experience might look like before we go ahead and publish, just to make sure our URLs are working. And we can do that by pressing this preview button here on the bottom left-hand corner right above our camera tool. I'm going to press preview, and it's going to take us into a trial, a test view of the space. We press the green button to test the room, and it will launch the room in viewing mode. We can press explore, and this will let us see what a guest experience would look like. So if we click on any of our paintings, you'll get a view of the image viewer, and you'll be able to take a look at how that works and whether or not you want to go back in to change out some of this information. We'll cover that in just a moment. But we have this link here, and I'm going to go ahead and press it, and by default, it's going to open us up into a new tab playing that YouTube video. That's super cool and super handy, but sometimes you maybe just want to keep them in your space. And I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to go to this YouTube video. I'm going to click on share, and in the embed, there's a special URL that I can grab right here. And you can see it says youtube.com/embed, and then the ID of the video. I'm going to go ahead and select that link and add that to my clipboard. And I'm going to put that in the room instead. I'm going to go back to edit mode, paste that video into the room. And we just want to make sure we have that embed. You can, if you roll over, you'll see the file name. And I'm going to delete this other YouTube video now because we don't need it any longer. I'm going to delete that YouTube video, and it's going to leave our file collection, and I'm going to delete it from the room. And now we've got this video. And if I go select this file, you'll see there's another option under file that says open a new tab. Now we turn that on by default because not every website is going to work with our micro browser. And I'll show you that now. So if I turn that off, because I grabbed that special embed version of the video, if I go test room as a viewer, I'll now be able to open that in my Sagan space in the room without leaving Sagenverse. So this will be a nice way for your presentation to keep the viewer in your project and not taking them to another tab. And this all works
You've seen
the same way you'd expect.
Everywhere.
Okay. So that's kind of the basics of putting a gallery together. Let's go ahead and talk about how we can get this thing shared. So once we're happy with our gallery, we can go ahead and press the share button. And we have a couple of different things here that we'll want to talk about. The first is this publishing. What publishing does is it creates a version of the room that is baked down. Think of it as when you've used any other publishing platform, once you're done with the work, you press publish, it collects all the information and creates a link. And then that link is that version of that space. This is kind of what we do here at Sagenverse as well. So if you press publish, it will publish a room, and it will generate a couple things for you. The first thing it's going to generate is a public link. And this public link is a special link to just this space and this version of this space. And it will keep this link alive for as long as you want to keep publishing versions of this space. If you ever unpublish the room, it will destroy the link, and it will destroy all other copies of the link as well. So you want to be mindful that if you ever click unpublish, you might be damaging a URL you've put out previously. So I would suggest just making your changes in the room and then just hitting publish again, which will point to this link. You also get embed, which is just like any other embedding iframe code is that you can add this to your other website editors of choice like Wix or Squarespace, or even your LMSs like Moodle or Canvas, and you can put your Sagan right into those projects or right into those different services. So it's very handy for that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the link here. I'll make a new incognito tab just to prove that we're a guest. We're coming in, and let's see what we get. Let's go ahead and load the Sagenverse player, and it's going to load your guest in guest mode. It's going to load up your room. It's going to give your title here, your description here, and it's going to give them some control information, and then they can start exploring your space. They can click on your paintings, they can look at your sculptures, they can read your placards, and they can watch your videos. And just like that, you've put some files and some links and some models into a gallery that you can publish anywhere on the web. So just like that, in about 15-20 minutes, we've gone from an empty space to a gallery we can start building upon. I'll be creating a few more videos, getting into more advanced features like setting up some tours, adding in some more interactivity, and just making the space a little bit more immersive and fun for guests. But for now, this is the basics. I hope you have fun building your first galleries, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Thanks for your time, and happy building.